Announcement came today. 2 new electees to the New Orleans Saints Hall of Fame from the draft class of 2006. They are guard Jahri Evans and safety Roman Harper. Who better to talk about it than Ken Trahan, who is the general manager and chairman of the board of the New Orleans Saints Hall of Fame, who's good enough to spend a couple of minutes with us here today. Hey, Ken, thanks so much for the time, man. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Matt. Titles keep changing, but I'm still running the media selection committee, among other things. So it's nice to be able to talk about something positive.
Is it not GM, chairman of the board? Like, what should I call it now then?
Just anything you want, man, is all good. So just run the media selection committee and so forth and so on. So there's no museum right now because of the renovation going on in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. So museum has been displaced for that time and place as a result of the expansion, which is a good thing, and the renovation of the dome. So we sit and wait for that to be rectified, but still good times regardless of the pandemic we find ourselves in.
Ken, where is all the stuff from the museum?
Yeah, it's right now it's kind of in storage, until we are able to get through this, and we're looking forward to the next phase of what happens here. So really interesting times to say the least, but it's going to happen here sometime in the near future, and I think everybody will be very pleased with what they end up seeing.
And they'll see 2 new electees, obviously, with Roman Harper and Jahri Evans going in today. If you would, maybe give us a little peek behind the curtain how this selection process went.
Media Selection Committee it's a tremendous entity, and I run it, and we've got a vast array of people involved in it that have really seen pretty much every decade in franchise history, and that's what makes it unique. And of course, it protects the integrity of it because it is media. And it's not coming from basically inside of any organization, which to me is obviously something that cannot happen if you're going to have a process like this and to have it be objective. So always a great discussion in the room, a lot of heated debate, I might add, but ultimately they arrive at great conclusions. And this year they arrived at good conclusions in my estimation as well. So but to be in that room is a place that a lot of people would love to be, because if you hear some of the debates and even rancor that take place, it's pretty funny. And so this year, Jahri Evans elected. That's a no-brainer. Jahri, and we don't talk about votes. It's private. Mm-hmm. The only time we'll mention anything publicly is if something was unanimous, and this was a unanimous selection for obvious reasons. 4-time first-team All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion. This is the second most accomplished offensive lineman in franchise history, if not the most accomplished. William Rofe, of course, would be the other.
Sure.
Obviously, he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and was incredible. Evans was a tremendous player. 4th-round draft pick, by the way, out of Bloomsburg. So don't ever let people tell you about, well, you got to be an investment to be that guy. He was a great draft pick, part of that 2006 class, which Roman Harper was too. And we all know what happened in 2006 when Coach Payton arrived and won a division championship and got to the NFC championship in their first year. So Evans was an easy pick to make, just an incredibly quick, versatile, strong player who was just a pillar for that franchise for the better part of 11 seasons. And as for Roman Harper, 9 years, 2 different stints. He came back for 1 year down the road after playing here initially for 8 seasons. Well, Roman was, of course, the strong safety, the quintessential strong safety type. He was a guy that could play down in the box, a really good tackler. He had good instincts. The thing he did was strike fear into opposing players. One of the things he also did very well was he was a good zone blitzer off the corner. He has some sacks to speak for, many tackles for loss as a result. And as I mentioned, he's a very short tackler, and he was also part of that 06 draft class, picked in the 2nd round, and a guy that had a chance to make an impact immediately, and he did. And we've seen the benefits of what he was able to sow by going to the NFC Championship in 06, winning the Super Bowl in 09, and being part of another playoff team in 10 and in 11. And Evans, of course, was part of playoff team in 10, 11, and 13 as well when he was here. So, look, these 2 guys were teammates. They were excellent picks. We're into that Super Bowl era very deeply now with the people that are being elected, and there's more to come. So these 2 guys are very deserving.
You mentioned, Ken, that there was heated debate. How many players are considered, are discussed in that media room?
Anybody that's been nominated previously and has received votes previously remains on the list. So the list can be as many as 25 to 30 people.
Oh, wow.
To be considered. And in the final analysis, it comes down to maybe 5 guys that you're talking about. And there was some pretty good debate about some pretty good candidates. And I can't disclose who in the process, obviously, but you can probably do the math and figure out some of those guys, since we're dealing with Super Bowl era times as we speak. And one of them that was strongly considered that was not part of the Super Bowl era, but clearly is deserving too. So there's some guys in there that were competitive and had a chance, and certainly will have a shot in the near future. Now, the thing that people have to realize, we get this question all the time, is the qualifications. You cannot be with the organization presently. You can't be playing for the team still, of course, but you also have to be out of the game for at least 3 years. The Pro Football Hall of Fame rule is 5 years. This is 3 years because it's only one organization, so your choices would be slim if you extended it any further than that. And then the other caveat is another obvious one, and that is you can't be working for another organization presently. If you're a guy that played here and you're working for a rival team right now, probably not the right time to be considering this. So those are the considerations that go into play, and we think it's a pretty good process. And again, the vote is always very intriguing. I should mention, too, that Marco Garcia is going to receive the Joe Gemelli Fleur-De-Lis Award. Marco was a pioneer. He started the Hispanic broadcast for the Saints, and it was something he wanted to see. He championed. He'd called a lot of soccer matches, transferred that to football, and really was a really integral part of ingratiating the Hispanic community into American football and bringing it to them here in the metropolitan New Orleans area for many, many years, and ended that as of 2019. His run was a terrific one. He was a guy that clearly made a difference, and we thought he was very deserving. So, and again, this Joe Gemelli Fleur-De-Lis Award is very vast in its tentacles and who it reaches. It can be anybody from a fan to somebody that worked for the organization to somebody that contributed to the metropolitan area and through the team in some capacity to a media person. All of those things are part and parcel of the process. Broadcasters, you name it. So, and I think that in this particular case, the guys got it right, and the ladies. They did a great job with this nomination, which I was proud to make, and, of course, the election itself.
Well said, Ken. One more thing before you jump. You've obviously followed the Saints organization for a long time, as closely and as vastly as anybody. Put some perspective, if you would, on that 2006 draft class, which now has 4 members elected to the Saints Hall of Fame.
Well, I always look at the history of the franchise, and there were those seminal years that shaped the success that the Saints have had over the years. And those drafts were pretty clear to look at in terms of, what they produced. And, of course, the one you mentioned is most prominent because it produced the greatest fruit of all and a Super Bowl championship team. But, they had some great drafts. The year Ricky Jackson came out in 81 was a great draft, to say the least, with what they were able to do. In 1986, that was a terrific draft as well, which helped shape the Jim Mora years of the first success that the franchise ever had, along with that 81 draft. If you look at all those players that came out of those drafts, you can't help but understand why a team would be successful. I've said it for years, the NFL, but really all sports, the draft is your lifeblood. You can talk about free agency all you want and all the signings in the world, and you can add a piece here and there and make a difference. The big-ticket items seldom produce what you hope they would produce. What makes the difference is that you invest wisely in the draft, and you hit. And it's an inexact science. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but when you look at what 2006 produced, look, Sean Payton's a really fine coach, and he's had very good coaching staffs to go with that. But any coach would tell you you're not going to win unless you have the players. And the reason they had the players is because of a draft like 2006.
Reggie Bush, Roman Harper, Jahri Evans, Rob Ninkovich, Mike Haas, Josh Lay, Zach Strief, Marcus Colston. And really, when we look back at Ninkovich, Ken, I mean, you think about what could have been a guy who's gone on to have a great career elsewhere, but could have certainly been a key part of that Saints organization as well. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.